sex, gender, gender identity, religion, age, height, weight, disability, political beliefs, sexual, marital, family, or veteran status. So all of our programs, services, resources are available to all. So I'm going to skip through some of these slides here. I would like to get some feedback. And again, I know all of you aren't able to do this, but if you're able to type into the chat box, just curious as to why you're here. What are you hoping to gain from these classes? What piqued your interest? And also begin to think about it. How do you know when you are stressed? We're going to get to that in a little more detail in a couple of slides, but I just kind of wanted to pose the question so you can begin to think about how does stress show up within your lives. Okay, so I have someone's having anxiety, chest pains. What I do, sorry, I should explain. So what I do throughout these virtual sessions is whenever someone does type it into the chat box, I read it out loud so that everyone knows what the comments are, but I don't say who's writing it. We try to keep it somewhat confidential so that you can feel comfortable in engaging with us through that chat box if you're able to. So let's look at, for today's lesson, specifically some of the things that we hope to accomplish is to be able to have you experience some of the benefits of mindfulness. We're going to learn how stress affects the brain, learn what research is saying about emotional and physical health benefits of mindfulness, and we actually have 2 activities that we're going to do. So we're going to experience some mindful breathing and also mindful movement as ways to reduce stress. So this is just a very short definition, just some bullet points actually about what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is paying attention. It is on purpose, in the present moment, which is the here and now, and also with a non-judgmental attitude. And this comes from Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. So what I also will do throughout the presentation is I'm going to keep an eye on the chat box. So as anything comes through, I'm just kind of going to pause and read it out loud so that you know. So it says, normally I handle stress pretty well, but once in a while I will feel hot in my face. Once or twice in my life, it actually just snuck up on me. My heart started beating fast and I felt anxious. So yeah, those are fairly common, right? You feel a warm rush all over your body, particularly in your face. Some people, you can even see them turning red. So thank you for sharing that, ways that stress shows up within our body. And those are physical signs that we've noticed of stress. So this next slide we're going to skip through, but you will be given a link that you can access on your own. It is Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he is the one who developed back in 1979. It's a mindfulness-based stress reduction program. So he is an expert on mindfulness, and I like this video. It does a really great job of just explaining what mindfulness is and how we benefit and some ways of incorporating mindfulness into our daily lives. So that's, again, a video that you'll be able to take a look at later on. Mindfulness is about noticing, and it starts with noticing. And that is the foundation of mindfulness. Think about this for a moment. You can't change if you don't notice how it feels when you are stressed. And that's why I asked the question at the beginning, you know, how do you feel or how do you notice when you are stressed? What are some signs that you have? But that's not just the physical. There are a lot of different areas that we notice stress. So going back to that same question, how do you know when you are out of balance? So I'm going to pass it over to Kai. And Kai, I'm going to go ahead and type into the chat box that resilience, and then you can just explain to them what that is.
Okay, thank you so much. Right, if we could move to the next slide, please. When we're stressed, as Georgina has alluded to, it can impact us in many different ways. It could be physical, we could feel our body tensing, we could even have pain. Many people actually mention that they might have neck pain or back pain, lower back pain. Sometimes you'll notice that you're stressed when your thoughts start going 100 miles a minute. It could impact your feelings or your moods. All of a sudden, you might just be feeling super stressed, or you might be feeling rather down if you're feeling highly stressed. It can even impact our relationships at times. Sometimes just getting a bit more irritable with those closest to us can be a sign that I'm feeling a bit stressed. Sometimes it can even impact our sense of meaning in life. We can start asking, what's the point? Why am I even here? It's just so stressful. So these are all different signs. And of course, it could impact our behaviors. Sometimes individuals engage in risk taking behaviors or just attract or stay away from other people. It truly can impact all of these areas of our lives the more stressed we are. Like the picture shows, it can almost feel as if we're burning at both ends of the candle. And the wonderful thing about mindfulness, as Georgina shared, it starts with that foundation of recognizing how stress impacts us. What are our personal cues? And any stress cue, whether it's physical or emotional or a thought pattern or behavior, can truly remind us, it can act as an opportunity to move, to shift into mindfulness. Simply this non judgmental noticing of our reactions. Instead of beating ourselves up, we can just say, oh, this is what's going on. You notice and shift. So it really is this attitude of not judging ourselves and just being aware, which has a great power to change our patterns of reaction. The next slide, please.
So actually, Kate, for some reason, I don't have the buttons anymore to keep going through on the slide presentation.
Oh, I do now.
Oh,
Okay,
you do, because you're talking. Okay, that's why I'm like, sorry, continue.
no worries. I was asking you to pass it on, whereas I could do it myself. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so when we're stressed, this is actually in the handouts that you probably have already received or that you'll be receiving at the end of our time together. It can impact multiple elements of our lives, our body, our thoughts, our feelings, relationships. And we encourage you to just take a moment, take a few moments to write down what your personal signals are. We noticed that some people had already shared ways that they notice stress is increasing in their lives from the chat box. So definitely take some time out just to ask yourself, how does it impact me? And when these things happen, it can actually act as a cue that you're getting stressed, and then we can utilize mindfulness to go to the next slide. I think Georgina put the link to that quiz in the chat box. We'll be addressing that shortly. So the
Yes, I
steps to
put it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. The 3 steps to mindfulness that we recommend in each and every one of our sessions together are these. Notice. Notice, notice, notice. Notice your body sensations, your feelings, whatever the cues might be. Shift and slow down to a moment to moment awareness by just practicing mindful attention. Being aware, awareness is the first step to any change. And then, as with any new thing, practice, practice, practice. Just paying attention to these sensations and shifting. So many times, autopilot is the way we typically respond when we're stressed, which we've discovered through naming our stress barometers, which we addressed in the earlier slide right here. Our brain is wired to go down the same pathway as we've used before, to have the same thoughts and the same feelings, to behave the same way we have before. Good thing about mindfulness, it offers a way out of this trap. The first step is to notice our stress cues, which can be signals for us to take a breath and take some mindful moments doing one of the practices that we'll discuss in this course. So notice, shift, practice. in our first session together, we'll be sharing a lot of the research-based information that has been gathered about mindfulness. So it'll be a bit heavy as far as just really giving a case for mindfulness. The first thing we want to touch on is the fact that it promotes resilience. And resilience, what is resilience? It's our ability to be able to bounce back from situations that come our way. So, as I mentioned earlier, Jordina placed the Qualtrics link in the chat box. I just want to give you a moment. Please click that link. Let's see if it can open up for you. I can get a yes or no in the chat if you can actually open it. If not, I'll just move on to the next slide and we'll discuss it later. Can anyone indicate in the chat box whether you can open that link? Oh, yep, got it. Someone says they don't see the link. Yes, it's the one that was sent at 10:13, I believe. Yes, that is the link that was sent at 10:13. Oh, great, it works. So take a moment to just complete that link. We'll just give you maybe a minute or so. It's not a very long quiz. And as you do that, just answer almost always, usually somewhat, sometimes, almost never, just as it indicates. And then we're going to score it at the end. And as you're completing that, just want to share that mindfulness, the short circuits stress reactivity, it helps us to react in a calm and responsive way instead of just simply reacting out of autopilot. Mindfulness rewires the brain and body to respond more skillfully. It improves our ability to self regulate our emotions. And it really improves our clarity of thinking when you take a step back and you can really look at a situation objectively. Finally, mindfulness really promotes the ability to make and sustain healthy lifestyle behavior changes. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of people are saying it works, they got it. Now let's see, this is what you've been looking at. If you could tally up your score to see whether you get 0 points, 1 point, just if you could tally it up and get the grand total. And if your score ranks between 0 and 10, it indicates that you have excellent resistance to the vulnerability of stress. Thank you. I'm noticing someone has shared what their score was. Between 11 to 29 would indicate little vulnerability, 30 to 49 indicates some vulnerability, and if you go all the way to the end, 75 to 80 indicates extreme vulnerability to stress. So you can make yourself more stress resilient by improving your responses to life's challenges, your health behaviors, modifying your lifestyle, and maybe building up some of the resources for coping with stress. I'm curious to know, for any of you who've been able to complete this Qualtrics link, were you surprised by where you stood, by the number that you totaled? Someone said yes. And given that we're living in this time, dealing with a global pandemic, and there's just so much unrest and stress in our environment, it's very possible that we might rank a bit higher today than we might have done, say, this time last year. And so the good news is this number is not an indictment on you. It doesn't mean this will always be your number, but sometimes our environment and what's going on in life can impact where we rank. And it can be a nice wake up call to say, hey, I am in a very high stress level. I might need to find other means of dealing with these stressors in my life. So this is yet another tool that we provide that would be very helpful for you to see where you stand at this point. It's more of a snapshot. Someone shared that they thought they'd be lower. Someone shared they're not surprised, they've been quite stressed. It was pretty high. So as I said, don't feel bad about the number that you totaled at this point. It's simply an indication, it's simply a snapshot, a cue, so to speak. And going through this class is a great step in moving and shifting in another direction. Okay, I will move on to the next slide. So, what are some of the risk factors for stress? I shared a little bit. I think a global pandemic would be a risk factor. It doesn't show up in this list, but here are some of the risk factors. Lack of social support or being isolated. And many people have actually struggled with being isolated over the last few months. Maybe negativity and pessimism could be a risk factor for high stress, or eating or sleeping habits. Could be your family demands. There might just be a very stressful environment that you find yourself in. That's definitely a risk factor for stress. Could be you're in a high pressure work environment. There's just a lot of expectations, and sometimes it just ramps up. Or it could be financial strain, or it could even be your own personality type, having very high expectations, which are great to have, but sometimes that can produce undue stress. And so these are certain risk factors to just watch out for because they could increase our risk of having high stress in our life. Does anyone relate or resonate with any of these risk factors? Feel free to enter in the chat. Absolutely. Yeah. I think many of us at different points in our lives, any and all of these risk factors can enter into our space, and just being aware of them and being able to navigate through them is very helpful. So, what are some of the mental health benefits of mindfulness as a response and as a way to deal with this risk factors that might be prevalent in our lives? Well, mindfulness has been shown to decrease anxiety, depression, ADD, substance use, grief, and a whole lot more. It's actually even used as part of formal psychotherapy at this point. Mindfulness practices, some of which we'll discuss today and for the next few weeks in this series, improve our quality of life, especially for those of us living with back pain or heart disease or other chronic physical conditions. And mindfulness can really help assist in ways to help people find meaning and purpose in their jobs or just generally in their lives. Mindfulness has also been shown to help with improved memory and concentration. So, hopefully, all this is increasing your interest and your desire to practice the different mindfulness practices that we'll be sharing because the benefits are great. So, we spoke about some of the risk factors, we spoke about some of the benefits of practicing mindfulness. And of course, the flip side to a risk factor, something that would put you at a higher risk for stress, are protective factors. These are factors that put you at a higher risk, at a higher probability of having a having a high resilience to stress, being able to manage stress and being able to bounce back quicker. So these are some of the protective factors. Social support, having a great network of family or friends, instead of having that pessimistic or negative approach to life, having a more optimistic stance towards life. That's been shown as a protective factor. The eating and sleeping habits, very important. And I, for one, am working on improving my sleep habits because getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, it really does great for one's sense of well-being and just one's mental health overall. Many individuals practicing their faith or their spirituality can be a great source of resilience and strength, and it can be a protective factor. Having a very adaptable approach to life, being able to manage change. I've heard it said that change is the only constant. So, having a more adaptable mindset is a protective factor. It helps us to roll with the changes that come our way. And just being curious, having an openness to experiences, new experiences, some pleasant, some maybe not so pleasant, but just being open to life can be a protective factor. And then finally, this has to be one of my favorites, having an attitude of gratitude. And we'll go into more detail with this in one of our future sessions. This really helps to mediate stressors in our life because we get to focus on what's going well as opposed to zoning in and only what's going wrong. So just being mindful and choosing to focus on what's going well, having this attitude of gratitude is definitely a protective factor. So using mindfulness can provide protective factors to balance our stress symptoms. Protective factors really are these skills, strengths, and resources and supports or coping strategies in individuals and families that can help us deal more effectively with stressful events as they come our way. Okay, so there's more. There is more, more benefits of practicing mindfulness. The physical health findings have shown, and I won't go into too much detail with this because we really have lots of information about just the benefits. it can reduce our chronic pain. Using certain relaxation techniques can help us to move our focus away from this nagging pain. For instance, if you have back pain, using certain relaxation or breathing techniques can really help. Diabetics have been shown to be able to better control their blood glucose levels. That's pretty amazing. Practicing certain mindfulness practices can help us with sleep. For those of us who struggle to get to sleep or sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and need help getting back to sleep, mindfulness practices are very helpful with that. They reduce cardiac risk factors, including lowered blood pressure and cholesterol. Um, it's helpful in increasing our level of exercise and improved immunity based on blood samples. The list is endless, but this is just a great snapshot of the benefits of mindfulness. So, as I'm about to round off, and I'll hand the mic back over to Georgina shortly, but I just have a few questions to ask. What does this sound like to you? Is this something you're familiar with, or is this like, wow, I never knew mindfulness could do all of this? Someone shared in the chat, if I have more than 6 hours sleep, I wake up with an unbearable headache. 5 to 6 is my best. Absolutely. And it differs for different people. For some people, just getting 5 to 6 is your sweet spot. For others, they might need more like 7, 8, or maybe even 9. So finding what works for us is always important. Someone else shared that they loved the saying, an attitude of gratitude. Absolutely. Okay, so moving on, talking about what really are the risks of not dealing with stress, not not mediating it, not being able to bounce back from the stressors. It can actually impact our brain. When we're stressed, many parts of our brain are affected. The pituitary gland releases cortisol, which is known as the stress hormone. It's incredibly powerful and it is necessary at times. Like if you're in a dangerous situation, cortisol will flood your system and put you on high alert to be able to get out of that setting. But the problem comes when we have the sustained release of cortisol. It can keep our blood pressure and our blood sugar up. And instead of just dealing with that perceived threat for a short period of time, it can wreak havoc if sustained for a long time. It can impact our heart rate, our digestion can be slowed or stopped because of that desire to deal with danger. Thing is, danger does not occur for 2, 3 weeks, but our system might be responding as if it is. Too much cortisol can actually kill our brain cells, and it is called the stress hormone for a reason. As the list shows on the screen, it can contribute to Alzheimer's, lead to memory loss, and it is linked to cell damage. So the stakes are pretty high. And if we can manage our stress in a healthy way, positive effects are really great. So this will be my last slide that I discuss. There are interesting findings that mindfulness meditation actually appears to change the physical structure of the brain, which may change our capacity for managing stress. Studies using PET scans have shown repeatedly that mindfulness training can lead to brain changes consistent with more effective handling of negative emotion under stress. Also of note, it is a finding that these changes lasted for at least 4 months after that intervention that really stood out. So it can truly impact our learning and memory, our anxiety responses, our responses to stress, our self-awareness, just that sense of compassion and introspection. So much more is still to be learned about how mindfulness-based stress reduction works in the brain, but it's just really great to know that it has such impact. So mindfulness truly activates the left side of the brain, which inclines us towards more positive emotion. And thickened brain tissue, that gray matter, improves our problem solving and emotional self-control. And finally, increased activity in brain tissue in areas involved in self-awareness and empathy, which we all need more of, people, can be increased through mindfulness practices. So I will hand the mic over to Georgina. Thank you so much for your time and for contributing in the chat box. Take it over, Georgina.
Thanks, Kai. I like it. There's someone in the chat box who has a good sense of humor. So it says here, so next time someone calls me a fathead, I'll take it as a compliment. And then prior to that, I think it was the same person, Said something about it's like a football, you got to just take it and go. I think when Kai and I had switched off slides. So thank you for that. That's always nice to see those things. I'm going to pause for a minute and just go back a little bit on the resilience quiz that you took. So those of you that were not able to get into the link, that is a handout that you will, if you haven't received it already, so that you are able to complete that on your own. But some of the things I just wanted to share in terms of those of you that took it and you felt like, oh gosh, my score was a little bit high or higher than where you'd like it to be. What this does is this can help. So for example, I'm looking at some of the questions. One of them is, you know, I exercise to the point of perspiration at least twice a week. So if you mark down never for that, then that might be something, you know, that you could begin to work on. So if you'll notice where the columns over to the far right, those have the higher points. So if never is 4 points and almost never is 3. So you could start to look if you have any that fall into those categories and perhaps trying to work on those. So I always point out the one about exercise because that's my downfall. That's something that I still struggle with. So if you don't exercise, perhaps beginning to do so and gradually, you know, incorporating that into your daily lives. Or another one towards the bottom where there's a question that says, I drink, or a statement, I drink fewer than 3 caffeinated drinks a day. Well, if you're on your 4th cup of coffee and it's not noon yet, then maybe that's one that you could try to gradually work on. So that's just give you an idea how you can use this particular questionnaire to help you incorporate some of these healthier lifestyles that will then also help build your resilience to stress. So I'll keep going and talking about stress in the brain and how all of that is interrelated. Before I do so, I just want to pause though and see if anyone has any questions on either the resilience quiz that I just went over again or anything that we've talked about thus far. So the next thing that we are going to move on to is, I said we were going to do an exercise together and one of them was breathing. So we are at that point. We're going to go ahead and begin. So what I would like for you to do is just get into a position that's comfortable for you. One thing that we can control consciously and easily is the breath. So we're going to take, it's just a few minutes to pay mindful attention to the breath. I couldn't follow my breath. I didn't leave a trail. Okay. I hope this person joins us when we do the mindful laughter session, because I'm going to ask you to share some jokes with us on that day. You have a great sense of humor. So even though you didn't leave a trail, I'm still going to ask if you could follow your breath. Love it here. Keeping me on my toes too by reading your comments. So as I was saying, please just get into whatever is comfortable for you. Some people, it's easier if they have their eyes closed. It helps them focus more. That's what I usually do. And then again, there's others that have the exact opposite. They prefer to have their eyes open. So just kind of try and see what works best for you if you have not done a breathing exercise like this before. So see here, any other instructions I can think of right now. The point of all of this is to just notice what is happening as you're breathing. So hopefully you're in a position or you're comfortable right now, because I'm going to go ahead and get started. And usually we would have a video, but I'm just going to talk you through it. So just follow along with what I'm saying. So get into a position that's comfortable and dignified posture. Perhaps uncrossing your legs or placing both of your feet on the floor. Keep your back straight and let your shoulders drop. You want to feel nice and relaxed. So go ahead and just take a deep breath in and close your eyes if you wish. Now gently guide your attention to the natural rhythm of your breath in your chest and belly. Simply notice the breath as you breathe in and out. In and out. There's no need to make the breath faster or slower, deeper or shallower. Just allow your breath to do its thing. Focus on the sensation of air moving in and out of your lungs as you breathe in and out, in and out. Continue to notice your breathing with a sense of kindness. There's nothing to do except to notice your breath. Sink into its natural rhythm, the rising and gentle falling of your chest and belly as you breathe in and out, in and out. As thoughts come into your mind and distract you from your breathing, just kindly notice that and return to focusing on your breathing each time. Notice the rhythm of your breath, the rising and falling of your chest and belly, the sensation of air moving in and out of your lungs. Notice if you judge yourself, perhaps wondering, am I doing this right? Or any distractions that may be coming your way. Your job is to simply notice that your mind has wandered and to gently bring your attention back to your breathing as you continue to breathe in and out. When you're ready, gradually bring your attention back to the room. As you open your eyes, create the intention of keeping this kind of observing to your experiences throughout the rest of your day. So that was our breathing, our short breathing exercise. I'd like to get a little feedback from you. What was the experience like for you? Was it easy to follow along, or did you have a hard time? Was your mind kind of just all over the place still? Hopefully the goal is, as you continue to do this and practice, that you will find that it helps to really calm both our mind and our body. So good, I do see one person says very relaxing and able to focus on the breathing. Great. And so why mindful breathing, right? First of all, it's something that we have the ability to do it at any time, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. So someone else says it was nice, almost like stopping to smell the roses. Yes, right? And that's really, I like that, because that is what mindfulness is, just being in that present moment, just having that awareness of what's happening within yourself and your surroundings. Someone else says, I have issues calming down and deep breathing for more than a few minutes. So sounds like this one you found it to be a bit long. I would say then just do however amount of time that you feel you can tolerate. And maybe doing a breathing like this is not going to be your thing. You might find it more you might find yourself better able to do like a mindful walking. I don't know if you're someone who likes to be really active. I know usually people that are really active and on the go have a hard time just sitting and focusing on their breathing. So they try to do other things, which is good because there's lots of ways that we can incorporate mindfulness into our daily activities. So that would be my suggestion. Someone almost fell asleep. All right. Hopefully you're not working today, so maybe you can take a nap afterwards. How often would you suggest doing that? Multiple times a day when we get stressed? Before bed. All right, good questions. So I'm going to address the one before bed first. If you have a hard time going to sleep and staying asleep or just getting a good sound sleep, I would absolutely suggest doing it just before bed and having it be a routine, so it's like your body's expecting it, so that you know, okay, just before I go to bed, I'm going to sit and do just a few minutes of this just gentle, deep breathing, or other meditations that you might find online or on an app. In terms of the other question, how often? So it is suggested that you practice mindful breathing. You can start out, just a short 3 to 4 minutes, and then gradually build yourself up. So the recommendation is to work up to 10 minutes a day. So that's like the ideal if you're able to do it every day. If not, I would suggest at a minimum to do at least 10 minutes, perhaps 3 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week or something like that, if you're just not able to do it every day. So hopefully that answered your question as far as how often. Someone said, I practiced this kind of breathing when I was active in yoga. This activity just reminded me how valuable my yoga practice was. Absolutely, yes. Yoga has a lot of the same principles and definitely get those benefits, right, from doing yoga. Been working on tapping and breathing, not too long, just not able to stay in place. Not able to. Yeah, so I believe this was the same person that you said it's hard for you to do it for more than a few minutes. So walking, or maybe for you is when you're doing regular chores throughout the day. Some people, you can wash the dishes mindfully, right? So it kind of goes to another question or topic that we talk about is, where can you apply mindfulness? And the answer is pretty much in anything that we do. It's just about focusing on the task at hand and really just thinking about and experiencing that moment right when it's happening, and not allowing our thoughts to take us into thoughts about the past or the future, but just really being in the present moment. So you can see on this particular slide a lot of the many benefits of the mindful breathing. So we're going to move on to our next activity, and that is doing some mindful movements. Oops. I'm not going to play that, but I am going to demonstrate for you the 4 movements that we would usually show on this video. So for this one, I will need you to stand up, and I'm going to have to get myself situated too, so I got to move my computer around. These movements, by the way, they're just utilizing our upper body, so it's not like I'm going to have you doing anything strenuous. Remember, I'm not the big exercise person, even though I know I need to work on that. So these movements are actually perfect for me. I like them. I find that they do help with my stress levels, just calm both mind and body. But the other thing I've noticed is it's helped me with my neck and my back pain. They're just very short, simple movements. Someone says they didn't realize that it actually relaxes your GI system. Yes, it does. And then next week we'll talk about the mindful eating piece too, and how that helps with furthering our digestion and a lot of other areas as well. So can any movement be mindful? I touched upon that already briefly. Some examples would be washing the dishes or washing your hands. Definitely the eating, and we go over that next week. Going for a walk. Have several coworkers who start out their day mindfully sipping on their coffee or tea, and it sets the tone for the rest of their day. I also know a coworker who, when she comes home from work, first thing she does is just washes her hands, just takes a couple minutes, just kind of washing away whatever, stress and everything else is on the outside, and making, trying not to bring that into the home environment. For me, I just like to do it in the evening, just a couple of just short breathing exercises. So just as some other ideas of how you can incorporate mindfulness into your daily activities. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up here. Oops. Okay. It's not always ideal, but hopefully, I'm going to see if Kai, if you can type in the chat box and let me know if the, I guess the camera is angled okay. Can you see my movements?
Yes, it looks good.
Okay, good. So hopefully all of you are standing up and joining along with me and not having me do this by myself. So we'll go ahead. We're just going to do 4, and we're going to do 4 reps of each. So I'm going to just demonstrate to you the first one. So what you'd want to do is stand up with your feet shoulder width apart, just kind of in a comfortable posture. Try not to be stiff, so just have your shoulders loose. And the first one we're going to do is just gently lifting our arms up. And as we bring our arms up, we're going to breathe in. And then we get about this level here, I guess shoulder level. And then gradually bring them back down and breathe out through your mouth. So when we're raising our arms up, you want to breathe in through your nose. And then as you bring them down, breathe out through your mouth. So go ahead and do that one 4 times. So breathe in, out. You want to smile on the out breath. Last one, breathe in, out. Now this time we're going to bring our arms all the way up. And when your arms are up, try to stretch them up as much as you can. In the game, again, when we bring our arms up, we're going to breathe in. And as we lower them down, we're going to breathe out. We're going to do that one 4 times. So breathing in, out. I should have mentioned at the beginning, you don't have to follow right along with me. You can go at your own pace. Some people are going to do it faster, others are slower. It's just the point of doing it each one 4 times and making sure that you breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. So our next one, so this time I want you to bring your fingertips touching your shoulders. You do want to stand a little bit straighter on this one. So now we're going to extend our arms out and breathe in. And when you bring them back, you're going to breathe out. Breathing in and out.
Georgina?
Yes.
Some people are mentioning they're having a hard time with there's either no sound or unable to hear.
Okay, maybe I was too far away from the computer. Is that better? And I adjusted my sound too. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. Try to get a little closer. Okay, so our last one. So this time we're going to put your hands together and bring them down. And then we're going to lift our arms up, breathing in. When you get to the top, you want to start bringing your arms down like you're completing a circle and breathe out. So we'll do that I'll show you one more time and then we'll do that 4 times. So arms or hands together, down in front of you, breathing in, arms up and out. This time we're going to start down. So bring your arms down and up, breathing in, and then bringing them down, out. Okay, again, the opposite way. So arms up, breathing in, and out. And last one, breathing in, arms down and up, and out. Oh. So those are 4 mindful movements. And well, one of the sheets that you have in the handouts, it does have, so those are from those are from Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm just going to go back to that slide there. So the mindful movements, there are actually 10 exercises that you can follow along. And it's really a combination of both focusing on the breathing and the movement at the same time. So sorry if I think my voice kind of faded away as I was doing them. So hopefully you were able to follow along and hear most of that. But if not, in the handouts, we do have a resource sheet that has the link that you can go to and follow along with those movements.
Georgina, could I share something?
Yes.
Okay, so just wanted to share the link that we will be sharing has the instructor leading it, but what I noticed was I had a favorite song that has a 4-beat count. So it's kind of slow and paced well. And so I did those movements to my favorite song, and it was amazing. It did a world of good for my soul, for my body. It was just a great mindful movement practice. So feel free to make it your own. If you have a favorite song that would allow for you to have these slow, gentle movements, feel free to use that. Anything that makes you smile. I like the advice to smile as well.
Yeah, yes, keeps those spirits up, right? So, good. So a couple of you answered the question I was going to ask, which is, I'm glad. I was just wondering, what was it like for you, those of you that were able to follow along? So it looks like most of you did find that you liked it. Wonderful experience today. Thank you. Yeah, so definitely, like I said, good things to do to just incorporate as best as you can, right? Because we know life is busy. Lots of things to do, but at the top of it, try to think about yourself, right? Things that you can do for yourself that can make the world of difference in terms of helping you better manage those stressors that are getting thrown at you on a daily basis, right? So one thing that all of us utilize nowadays, we're attached to, here we go, my phone. So there are plenty of apps that you can go to and download on your phone. A lot of them are free, so you don't have to pay for them. This is just a suggestion of some of the ones that we have found. But like, again, there are several out there. So I'm going to be respectful of your time. So mindfulness is being open, receptive, being curious, right? Gentle and nurturing, right? Taking care of ourselves so that we can continue to be there and take care of others. Someone says here, I now realize that listening to Metallica during the session may not have been the best decision. All right. Yeah, I don't think Kai was talking about Metallica, but hey, whatever music gets you moving, go for it. Yeah, so if you have questions, great. Thank you, Kate. Feel free to email me or phone call. So think about, right, because we want you to be able to use this moving forward. What practice would you do perhaps in the coming week? Whether it's doing some more of the mindful breathing, or if you really like the exercises, doing the mindful movements along with the breathing, incorporating the two of them together. And just lastly, I know we only have probably, just a minute now. Other questions or comments before we wrap up for today? Good, so I'm glad you enjoyed this session. We're excited to be able to be here and present this to you. And if you're wondering what other remote learning experiences, programs, classes that we have through MSU, there is our website that you can go to. And I can share that with Kate or Lisa. They can send that to you also in an email. Because we do have lots of programs that can be very beneficial to you. There's a whole separate area that works with youth. So if you have younger kids and you're looking for some things to do with them or for them to do on their own, there are classes and just different workshops and resources for children. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully you will be able to join us next week, Friday, when we do our mindful eating. By the way, we're going to do a mindful eating activity. So I want to have handy just a very small snack that you're going to have as we do that activity. All right, I don't know if Kate, if you have anything else, or people can just start logging off. I don't see any questions coming in.
No, thanks everybody for joining. Again, be sure to let us know using the MWR Battle Creek if there are other items that you would like to see us present or presenters you'd like us to have. And if not, enjoy the rest of your day. It is a Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yes. Happy Friday. Yeah. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, ladies.
Bye. Thank you.